Can you speak about psychologists and counselors working with folks? Much of training has been a little focus on strengths, but mostly looking at pathology or what's wrong with the person, and people come in talking about what's wrong with them. And I find myself shifting and re-examining how I envision working with people and how I can empower them to learn to shift themselves and move into a better feeling place.
Well, first of all, it's utterly logical that they're noticing what's going on. Mm-hmm. And where they are is one of the points in the 2-point vibrational relationship scenario. So where they are is essential to any recognition of moving to a better feeling place. So you don't want to make where they are their enemy. Where they are is where they are. In fact, you've got to help them make peace with where they are, or they cannot move from it, you see. Next, you have to understand that it is the most natural thing in the world to complain about where you are if where you are is not where you want to be. But right away, you've got to get their attention that continuing beating of that drum is what's holding them in this place they don't want to be. In other words, you got to get that point across really fast. You don't want to show an unwillingness to hear where they are because you, like them, need to know where they are. It's helpful to know where you're starting from.
Right.
Magellan doesn't say to Jerry and Esther as they program in a destination, but where have you been? Mm-hmm. Where were you yesterday and where were you the day before that? Because all of that is irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Where they are now is the only thing that's relevant in relationship to where they want to be. So why do people want to go back and retrace their history in explaining how they got to where they are? Well, it's because so many have accusingly looked at them as if they are standing in an inappropriate place and have made them feel defensive about where they stand. So then they got to go back and dig up all of that justification in order to explain. But if you're not doing that, if they're saying, here's where I am, and you're saying, okay. They're saying, no, wait, you didn't understand me. My wife left me, I have no money, I've got 3 deadly diseases, and you say, okay, we're good to go. But wait, don't you need me to justify how I got here or tell you how long I've been here? And the point that you want to get across as fast as you can is none of that makes any difference. The only thing that we're going to consider is how to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Now, where would you rather be? And they want to tell you where they've been, and you want to be polite for a little while, but after a while you want to say to them, you know, that's sort of water under the bridge. I don't really care where you've been or how long you've been there or how you got to where you are. I'm more interested in helping you get from where you are to where you want to be. And once you establish that with anyone, it's easygoing. And until you establish that, they won't move from that spot. And as long as they want to keep talking about what has been, someone sent Jerry and Esther a letter recently, very upset with Abraham's condemnation of the 12-step programs. And we are not condemning 12-step programs, but we are not really excited about the step that says, I must feel guilty for the rest of my life about what I've done wrong, because it holds you in that place that does not allow you to move on. And there's so much of that in that it turns this 12-step program into a long, arduous program that it does not need to be. It could be 2 steps. Here I am, there's where I want to be. There is so much about psychology and counseling that is wonderful. And it has come a long way. And more through trial and error have come to find effective methods. And when you start deliberately applying the methods that you've learned with an ear to the ground about what they're doing to improve a person's vibrational relationship with who they really are, you can make such fast progress. When you understand the law that is behind many of the proven methods. In other words, these methods just weren't drawn out of thin air. They were sincere people through trial and error, trying this and trying this and trying this. And when somebody found something that was remotely effective, they wrote it down and taught it to others. And there's a reason that things work. And there's a reason that things don't work. And when you find something something that works, there's a vibrational reason behind it. But when you understand the law of vibration first, and then you begin to look through those eyes into other methodologies, then it's easy to understand why something works and why something doesn't work. You can read a historical document of someone's life experience, and as you get just a little bit of their vibe, it becomes crystal clear to you the reason that their life unfolded in the way that it does. It's so easy to understand it. And it becomes increasingly easy to explain it to them once you give them some reference points, you see. Yes, there's no mystical factor in what's happening to anybody. It's a law. It's quantifiable. It's not a mystery why some people are rich and why some people are experiencing poverty, or some are well and some are sick. It's a vibrational law, you see. It's more powerful than the law of gravity. It's a law that you can count on every single time. And when you make the correlation between what you're feeling and what you're thinking and that law, you've got it. There's no place you cannot go. You are empowering people all over the place, you see. But if they insist on complaining, then send them somewhere else. You got to go someplace where complaining works, and I don't know where that is, say to them. I've never known a place past when I lived with my mother and she just caved in because she was weary of it, that complaining worked. And since my mother, I haven't been able to find anybody that was willing to put up with my complaining. Yes.
So you move into mothers and children. Do you just mention what you would say to a child about, does this feel good? Happiness begets happiness. I have a 5-year-old, and I often ask her to choose what she'd like to experience. I just wonder what guidance you have for working with, a 5-year-old who's pretty open, and I'm consciously aware of these wonderful messages I give, and then I'm consciously aware of when I get into the trying to control to make me feel better.
Well, if we were a mother, the guidance that we would be looking for is anything that we could do to connect them with their own guidance. In other words, soothe them into connection in any way you can. Because when they're connected with their own guidance, they're going to live a wonderful life. And if they're not connected with their own guidance, it's going to be hard for them. And if they're depending on you for guidance, you've always got to be there. And in time, even the most loving mother resents that. You see, you don't want to be their guidance. You want to be the inspiration to their guidance. And so we would say things like, oh, you're a good chooser. We would say things like, well, how do you know if you don't try some variety? We would say, I know you know what's best for you. And we would do everything in our power to let them choose and let them then live the consequences of their choices. And if you start that when they're little, now right away mothers all over the place are saying, oh, they'll get into drugs, they'll get into a gang, and we'll say, oh, we're being dramatic on your behalf, because that is not necessarily true when you start when they're little. In other words, if you encourage them to stay connected to source energy, they will remain clear-minded, they will remain optimistic, they will remain enthusiastic, they will remain balanced, they will remain flexible, they will remain in a state of grace, they will remain in a state of well-being, and they will make wonderful choices. So the idea of parenting or even counseling always and only comes up when somebody has managed to get themselves disconnected from their stream of well-being. So isn't it logical that your first, middle, and last, foremost and only order of business is to get them reconnected with their stream of well-being? Is there anything else that really is anybody's work as a counselor or as a mentor, as a teacher, than to help somebody get hooked up? But what you usually do is somebody comes to you and they're all distraught over some circumstance. And then you look at the circumstance and you try to solve the circumstance. When you don't need to solve the circumstance, nor do they. You just need to soothe the way they feel about the circumstance. And when you soothe the way they feel about the circumstance will resolve itself, you see. So as a counselor or as a mother, the thing that you must pay most attention to is, am I getting sucked into their drama and being blind to the fact that it's all vibrational, and am I being influenced to now deal with the manifestation or the action journey, which really has little or nothing to do with anything? Did you get that? That's so big. So let's play it out a little more. So someone, you don't know how, might even be your own child, but somehow they got disconnected from source energy and they're feeling strong negative emotion, and now they're acting out. Now they're breaking things, or stealing things, or drinking things. In other words, they're behaving in some way that is worrisome to you. As a mother or a teacher or a mentor or a counselor, if you do anything about their behavior, they've sucked you into their action journey drama. And you are of no advantage to them whatsoever. But if you can stay focused on your emotional journey relative to their action journey, now you stay connected to your source, which means you have great timing to help them reconnect with their source. Now you've got to the heart of the problem, which was they were disconnected from source energy. That's the heart of every problem. That's the heart of illness. That's the heart of poverty. That's the heart of not enoughness of anything that is wanted. In other words, it's always vibrational discord. And that's what we meant earlier when we said you can't demand somebody or legislate somebody or bomb somebody or corral somebody. You cannot, through force or through attention to action journey, improve the vibrational nature of anyone. So your work is to stay tuned in, tapped in, turned on yourself, and from that place of connection to remind them of their power. And when you think about it, negative emotion is about perception of powerlessness. Positive emotion is about perception of empowerment. So if someone's standing in a place where they feel so disempowered that they're thrashing about, you want to scold them? Will that help? You want to punish them? You want to send them to the naughty corner? Do you want to do something that further inflames their sense of disempowerment? Or do you want to say, you're a strong person, and you deserve good things to happen to you. And good things should and will happen to you. And I've seen good things happen to you before. And I believe good things will happen to you again. And I think that this is just a temporary state of being for you. And I don't think you'll be stuck here very long. And I don't like seeing you feel like that, but I don't believe that I will see you feel like that very long, because this just isn't in keeping with who you really are. I've seen you. I know how bright you are and how smart you are and how much you are deserving of good things. And I'm really on your side about things turning around for you. In fact, I think about that all the time. And I've seen things go well for you. And I know that things should go well for you. And I remember them going well relative to this and this and this and this and this and this. Look at these pictures. In this picture, do you remember how well things were going? And in this picture, do you remember how well things were going? In other words, we would do everything in our power to reconnect them with their sense of empowerment. That's what a true uplifter is. Someone who stays uplifted and then coaxes somebody else into the light.
And so that's much of my work with the parents for the children that I work with. It's really helpful to help them to do that for their children, to hold that, to see the essence of their child as strong and feeling well.
And to help them do that for themselves.
Yeah.
Because so often a parent wants counseling over a misbehaving child.
Sure.
And the parent is really asking you for methods to make the child's behavior better. And you got to let them know right away. You have no methods to make the child's behavior better, but you can teach them how to feel better with bad behaving children. And they're going to say, what? You're going to counsel me when my children are behaving badly? And we'll say, well, we could whip that child into shape, but then there'll be another and another and another. And then there's your government you got to whip into shape, and world events you got to whip into shape, and the economy you got to whip into shape. So if your happiness depends upon your ability to control the behavior of someone, you're not going to make it. And if that's what we're teaching our children, they're not going to make it. It's no wonder there's this power struggle going on. We're going to give up control of others. Give it up. Give up control of others and work on the only thing you've got control of, which is your vibrational relativity between where you are and where you want to be. Master that control and watch the world fall to your feet and give you anything you want from it. When you are in alignment with who you are the most persuasive, influential for good things being that you've ever been around. And doors will open everywhere for you. And bad behaving children will behave nicely for you. But until you line up, dogs will bite you. So is it fun to be the creator of your own reality?
Thank you.
Is it feeling more and more like you'd like to give up control of what everybody else is doing? Do you think you have a better chance of modifying the way you feel about what they're doing than getting them to change what they're doing? And as you modify the way you feel about what they're doing, does it matter if they change what they're doing? Well, you just got your fingers out of their pie. And your pie will be so much sweeter now, yes.